Welcome back to the Day in the Life of podcast. It's Eve and Payden, and today we're joined with my fiance Caleb and Eve's fiance Tanner. We wanted to have them on this week since it's Valentines, and we wanted to talk a little bit about love with you guys.
Yep, so we're going to tell you all our stories and, how we met them and how we got here today. So, this is my fiance Tanner. We met online. He slid into my DMs. We met our senior year. I had just gotten out of a relationship, but I told myself that I was not dating anyone my senior year until he came along, and I usually don't answer DMs, so I don't know what made me answer him in the first place, but I did, and 3 weeks later, we started to hang out.
Yeah.
I don't know what made you want to DM me.
I don't know, because it really isn't me either, or it wasn't me, I guess. I wasn't fixing to slide in someone's DM or something, but I don't know, it was just weird, I guess, because I don't know, I just felt like I was supposed to, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He took me out on our first date with his best friend.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just me and him.
He wasn't even sure what to do. He was like, let's just hang out.
Did that do the same thing?
Good job, it wasn't
What
done.
was the bowling with it?
The first time we hung out was actually I conned him into coming and buying me a fish because I wasn't 18. So he came there. I was like, Caleb, I need you here. They won't let me buy a fish because they need someone who's 18. And so he comes over and they didn't even ID me. True love. But then he met me and then he hung out with me again. But yeah, there were a few times that you would bring people and you wouldn't, anytime you'd visit me at work, you'd bring somebody, you wouldn't come by yourself.
He was never by himself for
No.
the first
Always
3 days.
I always had my friend Bryce with me because, I don't know, he's my go-to, and I didn't want to go alone.
Yeah, he would always tell me, if I find a girl for Bryce, I'll be like, so we're going on a double date again. When are we going to actually hang out one-on-one?
Yeah.
Because, when we first met in person, she wanted me to come watch her volleyball game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm not going to somewhere I've never been before, first of all, alone. And so I took Bryce, and then we went out to eat after, and I think I met your parents that night on the first time I met
He
you.
did. He was There's the first night we ever met.
It's also just so awkward and fun in that phase of being you should come hang out with me, but don't think that I like you unless you like me.
Yes. Well, I didn't even think he liked me because he didn't kiss me until our fourth date. And I was like, well, I guess that could have been part that he brought Bryce on every single date before that. But I thought he didn't like me because he wouldn't kiss me. But then I found out he said he was scared.
Yeah, I was scared because before her, really, I don't know, relationships. I had a 1.5-year relationship, and that was about the only thing. But I don't know. Whenever I met her, it was different because it just felt different. It felt like it was supposed to be there, and it was. And it was real for me. But
Yeah, he knew on
I
the
was
first.
scared.
Yeah, he knew on the first date, and I did not. It took me not a long time, I guess, maybe 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
But-
me and Bryce pulled out of the driveway when we were leaving, and I looked at him, and I was like, man, there's something weird going on with this.
Well, you wanted to tell me you loved me after you kissed me on our fourth date, finally.
That's all it took.
But
It was crazy how quick I knew that she was the one.
Yeah.
I wanted to be with you.
yeah, I look back on it now. I keep a Bible journal and a prayer journal, and like I said earlier, I had gotten out of a relationship that was not so great, and or many relationships that were not so great. And I had I was like, I'm done. Lord, I don't want any more relationships unless you send me the one. Mm-hmm. And I wrote that down in my journal. And then 2 weeks later, I had written in my journal about Tanner. And I was looking back on it, it was weird. It was a little God wink moment. Hey, you prayed for him, and so now you're gonna get him. But I know you guys have kind of a similar
Yeah,
story.
we do have a similar story. So I found out who Caleb was. He was a senior at our school, and it was the end of my sophomore year, so it was probably April or May because it was prom season. And one of my friends showed him to me and was like, you need to go to prom with him, he doesn't have a date and all this stuff. And I was like, sign me up, but don't tell him who I am because I don't want to get rejected. And then we didn't end up going to prom together. And we hadn't really talked or met, or like I didn't think he even like knew who I was, but I was mutual friends with some of his friends, and so I kept talking to his friends. But like over the summer, there was like kind of this situation that I had going on, and then I just started to like feel sick about it, and I was like, God, this is not the guy for me. Just take him out of my life. Like, I'm tired of all of this. I'm tired of dealing with it. Just send me the man that I'm supposed to marry.
Yeah.
And so like in that moment, I got that, hey Payden, text that guy was done, and I was like, weird. And then like 2 days later, I think it probably was, he adds me on Snapchat, and I was like, oh my goodness. And so yeah, we like started Snapchatting, and have literally talked every day since then.
Yep. Slate.
Yeah, my friend. So my friend is his friend's little sister, and so I would always hang out with Taylor, and he would hang out with Ethan. And so he posted a picture with Ethan's dog, and I slid up on the story, and I was like, "Slay!" And that's how we started talking, and we've literally talked every day since then. But yeah, like what finally, because it literally took you. We started Snapchatting in July, like July 1st, and you did not hang out with me until like the end of September. So what took you so long?
It was getting out of a 3-year relationship and just not wanting to restart with somebody else, because like you put so much time into a relationship and it's not tiring, but it just takes a lot. Like it takes a toll.
Y'all were both scared.
Yeah.
But I think the scaredness came from their intentions. Like they knew that, man, something's different about this girl. So if like I start dating her, I'm not going to say my life's over, but like life as I know it's over, you know, like my life's going to be around her.
You don't want to go through another 3 years. I mean, I wouldn't call it a waste, because, you know, you're building relationships and stuff, but
once it's over, it kind of is, because you're like,
yeah,
all that for what?
Yeah.
You've learned things, but like you don't still have that relationship with that person.
Yeah.
So
Tanner, honestly, he backtracked a little bit in our relationship. We dated for what, a year?
Yeah.
And then I was about to go off to college, and homeboy got a little scared over here and dumped me right before I left for college, because he was scared that I was going to leave him first. Like,
hey, that segues into our trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we would have told Tanner back then, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. You know, since you never gave him reason to not be trustworthy before, like, I feel like that's a good thing in a relationship. Like, I knew he was different because he would leave the house, and I'm like, goodbye, like, have fun. And I wouldn't really be like, where are you going? Who are you talking to? Who are you going to see?
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
You are still?
She is, yeah, still.
I struggle with it, but I think honestly, it's from my past. Like, I have been cheated on, and it's horrible. And so, like, I think that's where my not distrust, because I do trust him. It's just, I think I don't do it as much as him anymore. Like, it used to be bad, and that was part of the reason that he broke up with me.
There was a lot going on at that time
But
with us.
I think I've gotten better. You can might say otherwise, but he never asks questions. He's like, okay, just be careful. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do?
Don't you care?
Who's gonna be there, and how are you gonna get there? What time will you be back?
So I'm also
See you
curious.
later.
Some of that is just being a woman and being like, we think about the steps of everything, and y'all are like, I don't know.
Figured out when I get
And we're like, dude, you have to think about these things.
Yes, we just had counseling 2 weeks ago, and they were like, what are your biggest pet peeves about each other? And him not planning was like my number one thing, because I try to get things done in the week. I'm like, I need to know what I'm doing throughout this week so I can like plan accordingly. And he's like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm just going to have
I'm
to
not a
wait.
planner at all. Like, if I start my week, I have no idea what I'm doing that night, that next day, the next hour. I mean,
My
I
thing
have
though
no
is
idea.
like, even throughout the day, everything has to be done in such a logical, chronological way. Like, if you're like, he'll go to just do something sometimes because that's just what he wants to do on his list. But I'm like, why would you do that before you do this, 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 and this? Like, you have to do this, this, and this, and this before you can even think about doing that. Like, I've already have planned waking up, what we need to eat for breakfast, because that's on the way to the thing that we have to do for this thing that we have to do. And so, like, that's just the way that I think. And he's just like, we'll get there, we get there.
I'm the same way.
See, I'm not that organized.
It's not even organized. It's just like my brain is not okay if we don't do things the way that they're supposed to be done.
I do understand where you're
She has a, I wouldn't say problem, but you do deal with that too.
Yes, if things are not, if I have something planned and it doesn't happen, it literally ruins all.
Or if it happens in like the wrong way and you feel like you're backtracking. Like if I would have known about something and I could have picked that up on the way to doing something else rather than having to go back and like do, like, it's not really that big of a deal. But to me, I'm like, yeah. There was one day I got so upset because I don't know if he was late coming home. We were like just taking our time doing something. And then we found out that the gym closed at 6. And I was like, what? And I'm like, I don't even normally care that much about, he's the one that got me to go to the gym. And I was going to talk about that, about how like you guys just remind me to bring up hobbies later. But like, it wasn't even like that big of a deal, but like my whole day was just over since like one little thing on my plan got dismissed.
And I think that's one of the biggest like and hardest things in relationships is because we're so different. Like, and I think that's what I love. Like, we love about each other is because we're different, but we also have similarities to like our values and like our beliefs and stuff like that. But trying to like form a marriage and grow in a relationship together is hard.
Yeah.
And I think people struggle with that. And sometimes they almost give up in a sense. And that's why many relationships don't work out. But then you have on the other hand too, you got to know when to leave too if it's toxic. Because if you have a toxic relationship and it's not of God, it's never going to be.
Right.
If you can't invite God into that relationship, then you might as well say goodbye because it won't last.
Yeah. Especially because God wants to be the center of everything in your life. So like, even in relationships of people like us that are just starting out or our grandparents that are 60 years old, like if God's still not the center of your relationship, then like he'd rather y'all just not even be together and be focused on him than to not be able to focus on him as a collective.
Right. And I think people today, honestly, too, we put so much stress on finding the one, finding that relationship. Like, I have to be married by 25. Like, I have to be, and I have to have kids by 30. Like, we think like that, but it's really not up to us. It's up to God. And if you're not in the right mindset to have a relationship and to, you know, learn to love through God, God's not going to give you a relationship. He would rather you be single.
Or he'll give you a relationship because you're choosing that relationship and you're just going to settle and be miserable.
Right.
You know?
Right. But appreciate your singleness. That's one of the biggest things too. Even though we're sitting here talking about love and we're about to get married, appreciate your singleness because you do grow. That's one of the biggest growth moments that you will have in your life. I know when we broke up, I had like a lot of growing up to do, and both of us did. And it's that short time span, you know, you grow with your relationship with the Lord and you work on yourself, and he prepares you to find the one that you're supposed to be with, you know?
I bet a part of it also made you guys like appreciate each other more once you got back together.
We got back together. It was like something totally different. Like I feel like we were in love even more.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes like to say too, if one of you girls is in a relationship and you know you're broken up right now, I knew in my heart that we were gonna get back together. I think he did too.
I did.
But
I did whenever I broke up with her.
Yeah,
he was like, "Wait, no, take it back."
It was one of the hardest breakups ever because we both knew that we needed that time apart because we were grown enough in ourselves. Yeah. Like, we were still so young, and we're still young now, but we had so much to learn. And I do appreciate, even though it was so bad that time. Like, I cried myself to sleep every single night. Like, not kidding, for like a solid straight 3 months. You can ask my first pleasure mate. So, but you know, like I said too, if you're in a relationship right now and you're taking a break, God just may be telling you to know, grow and work on yourself because you have to trust him first before you can love anyone else.
Yes, I have a Bible verse for that one. It says, I would like you to be free from concern. An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs. How can he please the Lord? But a married man is concerned about the affairs of the world, and he can please his wife. And his interests are divided. An unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. Her aim is to be devoted to the Lord in both body and spirit. But a married woman is concerned about the affairs of this world. How can she please her husband? I'm saying this for your own good, not to restrict you, but that you will live in the right way in undivided devotion to the Lord. So that just shows that, like, sometimes you need that time apart so that you can get back on track for the Lord.
Yeah, like, I can't say this enough, but appreciate your singleness. I tell my little this all the time. Like, the moment that you stop trying to pursue a man is usually when he comes into your life.
And, like, you're not supposed to be the one pursuing him. Like, you can put yourself in situations to be more available to him, but, like, you're not, like, it's not going to work unless it's his idea.
Right. And that's biblical, though. Like, the man is supposed to, come to the woman and leave his home and join the woman, and he leads the household, and that's how God intended it to be, and so that's how it's going to be most of the time. And God wants the man to step up and be the leader of the household, and you have to find that in a man, because if you're looking in any other way, it's just not going to be like, he has to be of the Lord, or it's not going to work. Like, it's all about knowing him and having that relationship with him first, and then God will create you to be the woman that you're supposed to be for this man. And he's also working on the man to come to you. So you can't force that time period. It will come when it's supposed to come.
It also reminds me of, like, the Bible verse about how if you have, like, desires for the Lord in your heart, then you're going to produce good fruit. If you don't, then you're going to produce bad fruit. Like, you don't want to start a relationship with somebody, even if you, like, don't know that they aren't Christian at first. Like, but if you, like, see that they're not living for the Lord, then they're not going to produce good fruit. And, like, you don't want that in your relationship, because it's just going to be a bunch of negativity.
Right. And, like, when we were talking before we even started this, about you can't change people. Like, Taylor said this earlier, like, no matter how hard you try, like, you can't change people. Like, the Lord is going to have to change them for themselves, and they're going to have to want to change. So if you're pursuing someone that you think you could try to change, I mean, you can't. Like, I've tried before.
They've got to want.
And you can be their friend and want to lead them to Jesus, but, like, that doesn't mean
Show
that...
them how to do it and show them the way.
Yeah, but you don't want to be stuck in that relationship with them and just be waiting for them to be somebody that they're not.
Yeah.
Can't lead a horse to water, can't make him drink.
Amen.
Very true.
I think it's so important, because a lot of girls today think that they can change a boy, and it's just, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I tried in high school, like, oh yeah, I can change him. Like, I can lead him to the Lord, and maybe you can, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be with them.
Because it's also, like, you're not supposed to be leading him.
Yes.
He's supposed to be leading you. So, like, you can lead your friend to Christ, but the man for you should be wanting to work on it on his own. But yeah, I was super guilty of that. Like, Caleb's the first man that I've ever truly loved, because before, I think I really just, like, loved the idea of people. Like, I loved the idea of what I thought that they could be, or the idea I had of them in my head. But then it's like, do you actually even know that person at all?
Like, yeah. I know for me, it was hard to stay single. I don't know.
Or at least, like, had to like somebody at all times.
Yes.
And I'm just like, yes, you didn't even like them.
Yeah. Like, it was hard for me to just be by myself. And I think that's what I needed for a long time, is I needed to find myself first before I could love anybody else. And, I think girls struggle with that so bad today, because they want to force a relationship. And, the enemy also tells you lies and says that, you need a relationship right now. And he throws that at you like you're missing out on something, but you're really not. Like, in the end, God is going to give you the one that you're supposed to be marrying in the perfect time. You can't force it anything. So it brings me one of my Bible verses. Dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from God. Anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God. But anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God showed how much he loved us by sending his one and only Son into the world so that we might have eternal life. And, God is love, and he is the definition of love. And I think today, a lot of people have misconstrued the definition of love, of what love is. Like, today, and I hate to say this, with hookup culture, love is just misconstrued. Like it is put upon as something completely different of what God says it is.
I don't think it's valued as much.
No, it's not, because with that toxic culture, it's not love.
I've heard things too, and this like isn't necessarily Bible related, but it's saying like if you're not dating for marriage, then you're dating for divorce. Because if you have like a bunch of breakups and like you just go be with one person and then you're like, they're not for me, like that sets you on the mindset of like that people are just disposable, and like it's easier to leave, because like it is not going to be easy every single day. Like there's going to be times that you're like, oh my goodness, like this is hard. But if you have just like stayed with that one and you've just been practicing like staying with one person, then it makes it a lot like harder to give up, because you're like not used to giving up. So like
we saw, I think it's on TikTok actually, to not use the word divorce. Like they said to like not bring it up at all in your marriage, because if that thought enters your mind, you think that there's a chance of giving up.
And why would you do that?
Yes, in marriage there's no room for giving up. And I think it's hard. Like yes, like God doesn't promise us that there's not going to be storms and troubles, but I think in the end it makes your relationship stronger with your person. Like if you overcome those big battles, then you appreciate each other more, like we were talking about earlier. So you just always got to keep pushing on.
Yeah, that brings me to one of my Bible verses for like when you have arguments. It's James. I can't even tell what that is because I marked it up. 19. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And then I've also, there's Bible verses about how like the wise are slow to speak, and so I think it's like just sometimes you need to stop, because you're going to say things that one, you might not even mean, or like two, you're just thinking of because like you're in anger. But like if you replayed that, you'd be like, that did not come out of my mouth. Yeah. So like if if you just stop and like sit on it for a little bit and then come together. I think a lot of what we've been working on too is like you're not fighting each other, you're fighting the problem, because like most of the time you're still on the same page and you're still trying to get it fixed, but it's just like the one problem that needs to be attacked with both of you. So like come up with a solution, not mad at each other, because we didn't most likely cause the problem. It's just like a problem.
And the enemy sends a lot of your issues. He wants you to get divorced. He hates marriage. And I think once again that's why we have such a big issue in our society, is because he hates marriage. But that verse is so good to, teach each other that relationships are never going to be, easy, but it doesn't mean that you should give up, and you are on the same team. Like I listen to Sadie Robertson, and that's what she always says about her and her husband, that they're on the same team fighting the same battle. And so we've had to learn to like not yell. Well, I yell. He's never yelled at me.
I try to keep my composure most of the time.
I yell sometimes.
I think Caleb's yelled at me one time and I was just like,
I think I probably would do that. I don't know if you've ever yelled at me or not.
It's like a stern talking to, and then you're like,
I think I have once.
I've never raised my voice. I just like one time I was like mad, and, like it showed, but like I wasn't like
But then I was like, it's funny though, because it's that thing where it's like the woman can be like, and then you put us in our place, we're like,
The one time that I think he ever tried to raise you left the situation.
Ooh, I hate when that
happens. I'm bad about that though, because I don't know. I need time, space.
But then to me, I see it as like, oh, so you're just gonna leave?
I don't know. It's bad both ways, but I don't know. That's how I deal with things, because I need time to think alone, and
I don't.
Which you're doing what the Lord says to do. But. We need to be better about that.
But I guess.
No, it convicts me a lot, because I would rather us argue it out until we have an issue, because I hate when he goes silent.
The thing too is like they're not necessarily just like peacefully going and doing, like they're still like walking around heavy and like doing stuff and being mad, but they're being quiet. But you're just like mad because you're like, oh, so you're just not going to talk to me and you're just going to like stomp around. You know what I mean? So.
I stomp around when he won't say anything.
Slam cabinets, all kinds
like,
of things.
I think he goes silent, and I don't know how else to. I don't know how else to.
Hey, attention to me.
I was starting like was like zoning out, like
He goes, yeah. So then sometimes I'm
doing the
like,
dishes. I hate doing the dishes, but I'll be doing the dishes.
I wait, and I'm like, okay, you keep cleaning.
Yeah. No, I was the opposite. I'm like, I'm trying everything in my mind to make him speak to me. Like, this is so bad. I'll even come down and I'll start pinching him because he won't talk to me. Or I'll like turn the lights on if he's trying to nap or something.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know. I shell up whenever I get mad, but
I
maybe
used to
it's
do that
because-
bad for a while.
Maybe it's because I don't want to say something because I'm angry.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I used to just have a really big problem with like expressing my feelings.
Yeah, about that too.
I just like couldn't talk, and he'd be like, "Talk to me," because like I think at first, whenever we would start to have arguments, like every time I would get upset, he probably just thought I was gonna break up with him because I'd just be like silent for hours. But I was just like going through it in my head, like just like upset.
I have a bad problem with that. Like, I get in my head too much. Like, if we fight, and I'm like, do you still love me? Like, do you still love me?
She used to ask me that all the time.
And-
I'm like, yes, Steve, just because we're fighting doesn't mean I don't love you.
Yes.
We might have disagreements, but
Yeah.
we do.
It's because I love you.
Yeah.
You know? That's why I told Caleb too. I'm like, if we ever stop fighting, you need to be scared because like. You're never like if you love somebody and you're with them all the time, like you're never not going to care about what they're doing or like they're always going to be able to say something that like makes you upset. So like
You'll have your
it's because you care, like you care about what they think of you, and you're going to be like, well, why would you think that about me? And you're going to feel bad or something.
Yeah. No, we've had a difficult time trying to figure each other out, but I think everybody does, and you just can't give up. Like we said earlier, like you have to keep going.
And you have to realize, like, I would not want to do this with anybody else. Like, we literally get to spend our lives with each other forever all the time. That's crazy.
I tell Tanya this all the time. Like, I cannot imagine trying to date anyone else.
starting over to be awful.
Like,
It'd be terrible.
it makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I tell my friends this all the time. I was like, I don't know how y'all date. Like, especially in this world, I just like, I do not know how y'all date. Like, power to you, but there's just so much out there. I'm like, I don't even want to think about trying to go out and date again.
And I feel like a lot of like what people say about us, since like we did get engaged kind of young, and like they blame it on like, oh, well, you're just Christian and that's why you're getting engaged so young. But it's like, why? Like, I see it as a waste of time to go out to parties and date a bunch of people because like I would rather just have my one person that's my best friend that I get to do everything with than go out and like
And that's what
have a bunch of random people break my heart.
And that's
You know?
what God wants to.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you and a bunch of people.
And I honestly think that might be why he sent us to each other, because we were living, you know, in that way where it was party, you know, this and that, like you don't have to stay tied down, like, and it was a big, you know, sin in both of our eyes, and I think that's honestly it may have been why he sent us at the time. And like I said too, I kept getting burned, and I was like, I'm done. I just don't want to be single, or just send me somebody else. And you know, I think that's honestly too, when you give it up to him is when he's gonna send you that person. And I just like,
Yeah, he'll watch you try and find out the whole time and be like, all right,
yeah.
just come to me when you're ready.
Yeah. Literally all of high school, I just like tried to find the one, and I wasn't asking him, and I was like, finally, I'm just done.
And it's like, how do you think it's a new one every week? You're just, oh, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is the one.
My dad used to tell me all the time, he was like, you just fall in love too fast. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you just think everybody's the one.
My dad called Caleb that boy for a month. It's like I would have boys over because my house was just like the hangout house. And so like they met so many guys because like I would just have friends over, like I'd have guys over. And so he started calling him that boy, but then he was like, he's sticking around, ain't he? And I was like, yeah.
That's funny. Do y'all have like a certain definition of love that you think? Or do you have any advice for young girls? Or young guys even?
Yeah, giving advice for young girls.
Like, what do you see?
Yeah, like what would you tell?
I was never a young girl. It's kind of
You were a boy, so like what would you like intentions of like how to know that a guy is not serious about you, or like
that's good.
yeah, how do you know that a guy's not being serious about you, or how can you tell that like maybe a guy's needing a little more from you as far as like you're not, I don't know,
Yeah.
Like if you know that like this guy likes you and you kind of like him, but like you're still hanging out with other people, or like what would you give?
I feel like a lot of the times now, like girls just throw themselves to guys, and that's not how it's supposed to be. Like we talked about earlier, you know, the guy should pursue and lead the situation, I guess.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it seems like the girls, you know, kind of just throw themselves at the guys, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be like that, I don't think.
Yeah, my mom always used to tell me, like, when we were growing up, like, you don't text the boy first. You don't call the boy first. Like, they call you.
Yeah.
And, like, at the time, I was like, everybody else texts the boy first. Like,
But you do it and it would never work out, and you're just like sitting there texting, and you're like, well, where'd they go?
and my mom was like, you're not allowed, like, do not text them first. They're supposed to text you first. And I was like, that's not even a real thing. Like, you know,
But it is real, because if they liked you, they would text
They
you
would
first.
pursue
They would. They really would. And, you know, you see that all the time out there. And, you know, everybody has their own definition of love and, like, what fulfills them in their heart. But if you're needing something from them and they're not giving it to you, then, you know, maybe you just need to look somewhere else. Because
Don't wait for them to put it together, because like we said, you can't change somebody. They're never gonna just like be like wake up one morning and be like, oh, she's the one, when they've literally like you've had to text them first every single time. You've had to ask them to hang out every single time. Like he don't want you.
Yeah.
It takes two.
Yeah.
Yes.
To have a relationship. You
And
can't have one person try it or one not try it.
yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, we just struggle with it. And it's honestly, like I said earlier, it's misconstrued the definition of love. And it's so sad to see in our society, because we wonder why we have anxiety and all these other things, but we're not looking to God and asking him who he has for us. Like, we're confiding in the worldly things. We're going out and, you know, trying to find that boy. We're pursuing that boy because he's super cute, or he's, you know, whatever. But we're not looking back and thinking, you know, what does he live for the Lord? Like, am I ready for a relationship? Am I like portraying myself in the best way for my husband to come? Like, are you looking for those signs to say, hey, maybe he is the one, or hey, maybe I should step away, you know?
I think that also is like to think about in high school, like why do you want this boyfriend or girlfriend? Like, do you want them because you're like, because like you're not ready for marriage at that age. So like, what are you thinking about? Like, what are your intentions? If you are like just trying to live for the Lord, maybe you can have like some friends or like a not super serious relationship, but like you're not, like your freshman year, you should not just be like so ready for a boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you need to like ask God for the timing, because he's not just gonna.
I think so. I think, you know, even if you do get into a relationship and later on you find out that they weren't the one and you're heartbroken, that will always be a lesson to you, and you'll always grow stronger. Like, I know for myself, like in high school, I was, you know, boy crazy. I mean, every middle school girl is when they get to high school. It's not an uncommon thing, but, you know, you step into those relationship thinking, you know, I'm going to be with this one forever. And in reality, you may, like my parents were, but you may not. And most of the time, those boys are not ready for an everlasting relationship. And
I think breakups are good though, because like in the relationship, if you're like arguing a lot or whatever, you don't really see it. But whenever you get out of it, you can kind of sit back and reflect and see where you were
That was
wrong.
toxic.
yes,
Like you can fix yourself for the next one, be better for the next one.
yes, love is blind, and I know from that personally. And your mothers are always right, or your family is always
2 years ago,
right.
we would not have said that.
Oh, I know. But I mean, looking back, they were like every little thing. They would see a difference in me, and I'd be like, y'all just don't like him. Y'all just don't want me to be with him.
But there has to be a reason they don't like him.
Yes, and they, you know, their intuition, they know better than we do.
Or like you tell them stories, you'll be like, oh yeah, this boy, and they're like, he did that, and you're like, but it's fine. Like, and then they're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, and you know, try to like make up, you know, make it sound a
Excuses.
little better. And once again, you're like, oh, but I can change him.
Yeah.
But like, I'm gonna be the
He
good
didn't
influence.
mean it.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna be the good influence in his life. And you know, my parents were they were so mad at me all through high school. They were so frustrated with me until I found Tanner, because They were like, you are just so blind by love right now. Like, you are so blind. And there's so many people out there right now that are completely love blind. They just can't see what's right in front of them. And we talked about that last week, too, about, you know, how when we ask God to come into our lives, or sometimes that blindness is lifted. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you ask the Lord for a relationship, you can just, you know, pray that scary prayer that we always say. Yeah. Is he supposed to be in my life, or get him out, you know? And then
it'll happen.
It will.
And you're going to be heartbroken at first, because you'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. And you might even forget that you prayed that prayer.
Yes.
You know, because it might like happen a little bit later, and then you're going to be like, wait, what happened? But something better is going to come along. You just got to keep praying.
Yep. It always will. This plan is always best. But do y'all have any closing remarks that y'all want to say? Any other advice for our viewers?
I know you guys had so much fun.
Yeah. It is great.
Yeah, we'll have to have them on again. Maybe they'll talk a little more.
We wanted you guys to get to meet them and know a little bit of the backstory, because some of the people may know me and some of the people may know Eve. So
yeah, we just wanted to go ahead and introduce them. And what other perfect week than Valentine's? We hope y'all enjoyed watching this week, and we can't wait to hear from y'all soon.
we love you, and you're more precious than rubies.